The Booty Lounge throbbed with life. It was Saturday night. The air was thick with cigarette smoke, cheap perfume, and the promise of a good time. Neon lights cast a lurid glow on the patrons, their laughter and shouts blending with the pulsing rhythm of the jukebox. The scent of fried food hung heavy, a greasy testament to the bar's most popular offering. It was the kind of place where troubles were forgotten, at least for a night. Redford knew the Booty Lounge well. It was a landmark, a beacon in the night for those seeking solace, excitement, or just a strong drink. The walls, painted a faded shade of pink, had seen it all. Love found and lost, fights won and lost, and enough dancing to shake the foundation to its core. It was a place of raw energy where life was lived one shot at a time. The Booty Lounge was more than just a bar. It was an escape, a refuge from the mundane. It was a place where everyone knew your name, or at least pretended to. It was a place where you could be yourself, whoever that might be. And on this particular Saturday night, it was the backdrop for Black Pammie's story. Black Pammie was a vision. She moved with a grace that belied her surroundings, her hips swaying to a rhythm only she could hear. Her skin, the color of polished ebony, seemed to shimmer under the dim lights, her smile a flash of white against the darkness. Her eyes, large and expressive, held a hint of mischief, a spark of intelligence that belied her profession. Pammie was the heart of the Booty Lounge. She knew everyone's drink order, their troubles, their dreams. She dispensed advice and comfort with equal ease, her laughter a balm to the weary souls that frequented the bar. She was a confidant, a friend, a sister to those who needed one. But beneath Pammie's warm exterior lay a core of steel. She had learned the hard way to protect herself, to keep her distance from the men who saw her as nothing more than a conquest. She had mastered the art of deflection, her smile a shield, her laughter a weapon. She was a survivor, a queen in her own right. The men buzzed around Black Pammie like flies drawn to honey. They came in all shapes and sizes, their motivations as varied as their appearances. Some were drawn to her beauty, others to her warmth, still others to the challenge she represented. All of them wanted a piece of Black Pammie, but few understood the price of admission. There was Big Tony, with his greasy hair and wandering hands. He would sidle up to the bar, his eyes glued to Pammie's cleavage, his breath reeking of cheap beer and desperation. Then there was Slim Jim, all bones and bravado, who would try to impress her with tales of his dubious conquests. And of course, there was Clyde, the town drunk, who would profess his undying love between hiccups and slurred words. Pammie handled them all with the same practiced ease. She would smile, she would laugh, she would deflect their advances with a grace that bordered on artistry. She knew their game, and she refused to play. She was there to work, not to find a husband or even a date for the night. She was Black Pammie, and she belonged to no one. One Tuesday evening, a stranger walked into the Booty Lounge. His name was Lauren, and he was different. He didn't swagger, he didn't leer, he didn't try to impress. He simply took a seat at the bar, ordered a beer, and watched the room with quiet amusement. He was tall and lean, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He had an air of quiet confidence, of someone comfortable in his own skin. Lauren wasn't from Redford. He was passing through on his way to somewhere else. He had stumbled upon the Booty Lounge by chance, drawn in by the promise of cold beer and good company. He hadn't expected to find Black Pammie, but when he did, something shifted inside him. He watched her as she moved through the bar, her laughter like music to his ears. He admired her grace, her strength, her way of handling the men who flocked around her. He saw the intelligence in her eyes, the sadness she tried to hide behind her smile. He knew in that instant that he had to know her. Lauren asked Pammie to join him for a drive. He wanted to show her the beauty of Lake Michigan under the moonlight. She hesitated, her guard instantly up. Men rarely asked Pammie on dates, and those who did usually had ulterior motives. But there was something about Lauren, something in his eyes, that made her want to say yes. They drove in comfortable silence, the windows rolled down, the night air filled with the sound of crickets and the distant roar of the waves. Lauren told her about his life, his dreams, his regrets. He listened patiently as she shared her own story, her voice a soft murmur in the darkness. For the first time, Pammie felt truly seen, truly heard. They reached the lake just as the moon was reaching its zenith. The water, bathed in silver light, shimmered and danced. The air was cool and crisp, carrying with it the faint scent of salt and seaweed. They sat on the beach, their shoulders touching, and watched the waves crash against the shore. It was a perfect night, a stolen moment of peace in a world that often felt chaotic and unkind. Lauren surprised Pammie with a trip to a wine-tasting retreat in Traverse City. Surrounded by rolling vineyards and the heady aroma of fermenting grapes, Pammie felt a world away from the booty lounge. She wandered through the vineyards, her hand clasped in Lauren's, marveling at the beauty of the landscape. She tasted wines she had never even heard of, her palate awakening to new sensations. They sat on a sun-drenched patio, sipping chilled Chardonnay and sharing plates of cheese and fruit. Lauren talked about his dreams of opening a bookstore, a place where people could gather and share their love of literature. Pammie listened, her heart swelling with affection for this man who dared to dream. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the vineyard, they wandered back to their room, their fingers intertwined. That night, as they lay together beneath a canopy of stars, Pammie allowed herself to dream of a different life. A life with Lauren, a life filled with love and laughter and the simple joys of being alive. One hot summer afternoon, Lauren took Pammie to Grass Lake. The lake was deserted, Lauren, with a mischievous glint in his eye, suggested they go for a swim. Pammie hesitated, her insecurities bubbling to the surface. She had never been swimming naked before, had never felt comfortable enough with any soul. But Lauren, sensing her hesitation, simply smiled and stripped off his clothes, his body lean and strong in the sunlight. He dived into the water with a joyous shout, the droplets sparkled. Pammie, emboldened by his lack of self-consciousness, slowly removed her own clothes. She stood for a moment on the shore, her body exposed to the elements, feeling vulnerable yet strangely free. Into the cool water. It felt like a baptism, a cleansing of her past hurts and insecurities. She swam alongside Lauren, their bodies moving in perfect synchronicity. They laughed and splashed and their joy echoing across the empty lake. For those few precious hours, they were Adam and Eve, innocent and unburdened, their love a pure and primal force. Back in Redford, Lauren continued to court Pammie. He would meet her after her shift at the Booty Lounge, his car waiting like a chariot at the curb. They would drive around town, talking and laughing, sharing their hopes and dreams. One night, they ended up at a Chinese buffet, the fluorescent lights casting a surreal glow on the steaming trays of food. Lauren watched, amused, as Pammie piled her plate high with noodles, dumplings, and sweet and sour chicken. They ate until they could eat no more, their conversation punctuated by contented sighs. Lauren, ever the gentleman, used his chopsticks to pick up a stray noodle from Pammie's chin, his touch sending shivers down her spine. As they left the restaurant, their bellies full, their hearts even fuller, Lauren leaned in and whispered in Pammie's ear, "I think I'm falling in love with you, Black Pammie." Pammie, her heart pounding in her chest, simply smiled and whispered back, "I think I'm falling in love with you too, Lauren." One night, Lauren arrived at the Booty Lounge eager to see Pammie, but Pammie wasn't there. Her apron hung limply on a hook behind the bar, her usual spot empty save for a half-empty bottle of bourbon and a single glass. The other waitresses, their faces etched with concern, told Lauren that Pammie had left early, saying she wasn't feeling well. She hadn't said where she was going, and no one had seen her since. Lauren, his heart pounding in his chest, searched everywhere for Pammie. He drove to her apartment, but her car was gone. He called her friends, her family, even the local hospitals, but no one had heard from her. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, but Pammie remained missing. The police, initially dismissive, eventually opened an investigation, but they found no leads, no clues, no trace of the woman who had captured Lauren's heart. Lauren was devastated. He couldn't understand how Pammie could simply vanish into thin air. He replayed their last conversation over and over in his mind, searching for any hint of what might have happened. Had she been kidnapped? Had she run away? Had she simply grown tired of him and their small-town life? The questions haunted him, but the answers remained elusive. Black Pammie, the woman who had brought light and laughter into his life, was gone, leaving behind a void that nothing and no one could fill. The mystery of her disappearance lingered on, a shadow hanging over the once vibrant memory of their love.